God, if you ever have friends like these, cut them out of your life, okay? I barely was paying attention. It was just so frustrating. Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about a few friggin' books. I only have 3 books to talk about today for this very quick recent wrap up. I just simply don't know when I'm gonna finish the other 2 that I'm in the middle of. Might be a hot second, so I figured let's just record this now. The first book I'm gonna talk about today is The Tangle Root Palace by Marjorie Liu. And this is the same author who does the graphic novel series, Monstrous, and Sana Takeda is the artist and is the same artist for this beautiful cover. And this is a collection of short stories by Marjorie Liu. And there is also a very short novella at the end, the titular story, The Tangle Root Palace. And short story collections, if you've been here for a minute, you know, I don't really read a lot of that. And I think anything I have read that's like short story collections has been anthologies where it's like multiple authors writing different short stories in some sort of genre or like with a theme, right? And I've read several, not a bunch, but like I've read a handful, and they just never are like real big hits with me. I don't know. It's like I don't get that invested, you know? I think it takes a really particular type of writer to really grab me in a novella or a short story. And I don't think though that have I ever read one? I mean, I guess like The Assassin's Blade that's novellas. That's like a bind up of the Throne of Glass novellas. So I've read stuff like that. But yeah, true short stories from one author I haven't read. And I like enjoyed this. I was intrigued. I certainly liked certain stories more than others. I think my favorite, I think it might have been After the Blood or Sympathy for the Bones. The first one or the second to last one. I think those are probably my favorites. They all have kind of a running theme of like haunted, creepy, magical, weird forests and like what's going on with the forest. Not all of them, but most of them did. And yeah, I enjoyed them. I'm kind of curious because at the end of each one, she has like a little blurb, like kind of explaining like where this came from, like why she wrote it and whatever. And a couple of them, she said they're like prequels or short stories for this series that she has. So I'm kind of curious to check that series out now. What was the series? Let me find it. It was like something, Dirk and Steel Paranormal Romance series about a detective agency that acts as a cover for supernatural creatures who use their powers to help others. So I'm very curious to read that now. Yeah. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to keep this copy probably because I don't believe I will ever reread this, but I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It was an enjoyable time. Definitely as far as short stories go, I had a good enough time with it. And then I continued on with the Bridge Kingdom series, and I read the sequel, The Traitor Queen by Danielle L. Jensen, and I did listen to this on audio as well. And I said when I talked about the Bridge Kingdom that it was a good time, I liked it, I liked the romance, but I wasn't really like, oh yeah, this is so great. It was more that I was intrigued with the setup and everything, and it was all just like good. It was all like enjoyable and good. Not bad, not unenjoyable. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna continue. But by the ending, I was very irritated with something that happened in the ending. Just some plot stuff and character behavior that I felt like made literally no sense and felt a bit contrived for tension in this story. And that continued in, like, obviously, because it's like that's how the book ends. And then the sequel like continues with that. And so that was kind of annoying. And whereas with the first book, I listened to it on audio, no problems. Like I was focused every time I was listening to it. I knew what was happening. I was following along. I didn't miss anything, which can happen for me sometimes with certain audiobooks where I'm like, wait, I feel like I just listened to a whole chapter and I don't know what the hell happened. That didn't happen with The Bridge Kingdom. I was there. With the Traitor Queen, the first like 20%, I was annoyed and I was kind of like, okay, whatever. And then, and I was good, I was paying attention, but it was like after like 20 or 30%, I found myself really not paying attention and just kind of losing interest, I guess. And so I did finish it. I'm counting it as like a book read in the year, but I'm not giving it a rating because definitely the final 50% of the book, I barely was paying attention. Like, I can tell you very vague, like, plot points, but some of them I'm even like, I think that's what happened. I'm pretty sure that was what happened, but I was like vague, not really paying attention. So it's like the equivalent of like heavily skim reading, where like with the final book in the Mistborn trilogy, where I was like, I essentially DNF'd the final like 20% because I barely read it. I heavily skim read it and then just read a synopsis. And I said that when I reviewed it. But like, it's kind of the same thing here. It was like the last 50% of that audiobook, barely, stuff happened. Pretty sure I kind of know like a very vague outline of what happened. And that's that. So yeah, counting it as a book read, but I'm not giving it a rating. It wasn't really, I mean, I was annoyed with that one part, but it was mostly just, I wasn't in love with any particular part of it. It was fine, but I just didn't love any of the characters that much. I wasn't gripped by the romance. I was annoyed with something happening in the romance. And then like the world and the politics and stuff, I didn't really care about all that. So yeah, just one that kind of fizzled out. So, and the final book that I want to talk about, I'm going to try really hard not to like talk too much about this. The book in question is Wahala by Nikki May. And Wahala means trouble. And okay, I've seen all over, I like Googled it to try to tell what the actual genre of this book is. Because I've seen people say and I've seen people shelve it on Goodreads as like women's fiction, chick lit. And I'm like, it has like that kind of tone a little bit. It definitely has that tone, but I've read a fair amount back in the day before BookTube, like in high school and college. I read a decent amount of like women's fiction, chick lit. I categorize, and I mean, of course, we all can kind of categorize genres differently, but for me, to consider a book women's fiction or chick lit, it's like, it has a very, I almost want to say like bouncy feel to it. Almost rom-com-y, but like romance isn't necessarily the focus. The focus is more being an adult woman in the world and figuring out like your career and your family and your friends and maybe your dating life and just like navigating all of this as a modern woman in the world. And there's probably some dramas, but the core focus of the book is this main character or these couple of main characters who are typically friends and just them navigating life as a modern woman. This book does have that element to it, but we start off in the prologue. This isn't spoilery. And in the prologue, there's nothing even specific in it, but the prologue is basically a setup of like a mystery. There's like, potentially, it seems like someone is attacked, injured, or dead maybe. And then there's another person who seems to be a woman because of the clothing described, and she's all disheveled, buttons popped off, clothing ripped and torn, and holding a heavy object, a like blunt heavy object, and freaking out, and then calling for help. It's like less than a page prologue. And then it cuts to 4 months earlier. And then we jump into the story following these 3 best friends who are all Anglo-Nigerian women who have white English mothers and black Nigerian fathers. And we go from there. And then there's a 4th woman that gets introduced to their friend group who is the Wahala, the trouble, right? That's kind of the setup. So, okay, my pros for this book, if you just like mess, you just kind of love seeing just the absolute worst, most toxic people being shitty to each other and others around them, and just their lives kind of falling apart because of their own stupid ass choices. And you just kind of love that like messy ass drama. You'd probably have a good time with this because that's a lot of what it is. And also, I think this would be a really interesting book club pick, like a discussion book to talk about all these different things. Because you have, so the three core best friends. We have Simi, who is married and has this like penthouse, and her husband just are so passionate about each other. They don't have children yet, but like that's in the plans. Like they're living the life. But her husband thinks they're trying for a baby and she's not. And then we have Ronke, who was my favorite character, the only good character. Well, there's some side characters that are good, but as far as the core three, the other two suck. Ronke for life. Ronke must be protected at all costs because she is precious and I love her, okay? And these two other bitches did not deserve her because they were so mean. Anyways, and then Boo. Boo is also married, and both of these women who are married to white men. And Boo is married to this white French man, and they have a 5-year-old daughter, and Boo is very resentful of being a mother and a wife, and is like, I hate this, right? Okay. So we have all these dynamics, and like I said, drama, messy behavior starts happening, so I think it could be really fun for like a book club pick, okay? Also, another positive, this is compulsively readable. I think that is largely because of the drama and the mess, but honestly, I think I was so annoyed at certain points with Boo in particular, who is just the fucking worst. Oh my God. I hate this character. She's terrible. Simi was pretty obnoxious at points too, and like real dumb and just, what are you doing? You're a grown-ass woman. Why are you behaving like this? But Boo was on another level. So I think I would have DNF'd this, honestly, because of my annoyance. Like, it was high. But that prologue of like, it seems like somebody's gonna die at some point with like this blunt, heavy object, and like, who was the body? Did they kill someone? Like, that mystery element propelled me along. So that is also very positive. I read this in like a day. I listened to it on audio. I started it on in physical form, but then I started listening to it in audio, and I liked the audiobook. But yeah, I found the characters so annoying, the ones who are terrible. Definitely content warnings for toxic friendships. Like, if you've ever had like kind of an emotionally manipulative, abusive, verbally abusive, toxic as fuck friend, and you're like sensitive to this, like maybe you're a little traumatized, tread lightly, because I'm the age that these women are, they're like mid-30s. I don't have a single fucking friend who would ever, even if they're angry and they're hating their life and they're going through, like I have friends who have gone through really crazy things in their lives, like very stressful stuff, and you know what? They are still fucking nice to me, the person who has nothing to fucking do with this shit. And these two, Boo and Simi, were just evil to Ronke and to other people too, like to their husbands, lying, manipulating, and just wanting to take no accountability and like doing horrible, really bad, immoral things, and then being so offended if anyone dares to question them about their behavior. It was just so frustrating. So yeah, I struggled with that. Also, I think if you are sensitive to negative comments about weight, you could potentially need a content warning for this. We have Ronke, who is described as being, she's not even really described as like self-identifying as fat, but she's described as being voluptuous, curvy. She in her head thinks that she is too fat or she doesn't love her body. And she's the character who loves food. And like, she's just always thinking about food and her body, food and it making her fat. So like, I could see someone having like a sensitivity to that. I don't know that I would say it's like fat phobic or not. I can't really say in that regard, but definitely just like tread lightly if you're really sensitive to that. The food descriptions were great though in this book. And at the end of the book, there are recipes if you wanted to make a couple of the dishes. There's like Ronke's chicken stew, Auntie Kay's moi moi, I think that's how it's pronounced. I listened to the audiobook, now I don't remember. And then Ronke's jollof rice as well, so that's fun. Also, I found something, and I've asked a couple people, like, am I reaching with feeling like this was a little transphobic. It's not like a big thing in the book. There's one male character who's like a side character who he's not on the page all that much, but like a lot of the times that he is on the page, he is talking negatively about the fourth woman that like joins their friend group. It's said in the synopsis that she's like maybe trouble. She's maybe Wahala, right? She's like the fatally glamorous, like, ooh, blah, blah, blah. The more she intervenes, the more chaos she sows, right? So she's kind of like the evil, we don't like her character, right? And like Ronke clocks it immediately and is like, I don't think I like her. Her man, Ronke's man, is like, I know her from before, like when I was younger. I don't like her, stay away from her, she is trouble, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I didn't count, I didn't keep track, but it's more than like 2 times. I want to say it's like 3 to 5 times. He is talking about this character, this woman, and just for no reason saying how she looks mannish. And she looks like a bloke. And I don't know why she has to look like such a man. And Ronke is kind of like, what? She's like glamorous and beautiful. And then towards the end, Ronke thinks it too and is like, you know, he's kind of right. Like, she does have kind of like a mannish frame. And look at the veins bulging out of her neck. And like, that's it. There's no real point to it, I didn't think. I was just kind of like, why? And like, it didn't help describe her either because everyone else described this character as being this beautiful, glamorous, just dressed to the nines, like feminine, just gorgeous beauty. So then you have this guy being like, she looks like a man just because he doesn't like her. It was just like, and also I felt like this, like it had a setup of a mystery element that did kind of keep me propelled along. But then I don't think it really stuck the landing as far as the mystery part of it is concerned. I can't really talk about it too much because it would be spoilery, but the ending, I didn't like the ending. The ending, I guess it was like unsatisfying for me personally. I found the ending very like, wah, and just kind of like, okay, all right. So yeah, it was compulsively readable. If you like mess and just like, you just want to go into it like, I just want some fucking drama. Great book for that. And I think it was also like, it's good to have different representation. And like the author said, she wrote this book because she wanted to see herself in a book and like her friends and whatnot. And it was interesting seeing these 3 women who are all, like I said, Anglo-Nigerian. They all have Nigerian fathers and English mothers, white English mothers, black Nigerian fathers. But they all have a very different experience being biracial and a different relationship with being biracial, and specifically a very different relationship with their comfort level and like acceptance levels of their Nigerian side and their Nigerian culture with their blackness, essentially. So, you know, that, I think there was a nuanced conversation happening there. I obviously cannot speak to the execution of that on any personal level. I will say another kind of content warning though, if you are sensitive to colorism and some racism too for sure, but definitely colorism conversations, just a heads up on that too. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a very it was a mixed bag with this book. I didn't really love it, but I also didn't hate it. There was a character I hated for sure, and I think that definitely tainted my enjoyment level, and then just the ending not sticking the landing a little bit. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars, just very middle of the road for me. I'm very curious to see anyone else, if they've read this, what they thought of it. So I'll link down below some black reviewers, and I found a couple of Nigerian reviewers, at least one, talking about this book. So I will link their videos down below. Please do go check those out. And yeah, I just don't really know what the genre is. It's contemporary for sure, fiction for sure, obviously. And it's leans a little bit like women's fiction, but also a little bit mystery, but not fully mystery for sure, and definitely not fully women's fiction. It's just kind of a little mixed bag of genres, you know? As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.